Millionaire amazed by female mechanic who broke stereotypes and made engine roar. Maya Johnson stormed into Elite Motors like a tornado. Grease-smudged hands, worn-out boots scraping the polished marble floor. Head snapped. Conversations froze. The air thickened with the scent of expensive leather mingled with her unmistakable grit. She was a walking contradiction in this showroom of sharp suits and whispered judgments. The Ferrari 488 GTB gleamed under the spotlight. A beast everyone whispered was cursed. Countless mechanics had tried and failed. Now, Maya's jaw was set tight, eyes burning with a dare no one here had the guts to accept. She was ready to take on the impossible. Thomas Bennett, the owner, leaned back in his leather chair, his lips curled in a slow, condescending smile. "You're out of place here, Miss Johnson," he said, voice dripping with dismissal. "This isn't some greasy backstreet garage." Sarah, the receptionist, barely glanced up, eyebrows knitting as the sterile silence that followed was heavy, filled with unspoken doubts and thinly veiled mockery. Maya didn't flinch. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from adrenaline. The stakes? A $100,000 wager. Fix the Ferrari, and she'd earn respect money couldn't buy. Fail, and the resulting humiliation would echo far beyond the showroom's glass windows. She swallowed hard, feeling a lump in her throat tighten like an iron grip. Inspection began. The beast's engine groaned under her expert touch, wires tangled like wild snakes, sensors blinking cryptic warnings. As Maya dug deeper, cold sweat prickled on her brow. Something was off. Parts didn't match up, serial numbers scratched out in haste. This wasn't just a bad engine, it was a labyrinth of lies. She uncovered counterfeit components smuggled in, hidden beneath layers of fake receipts. Her heart pounded as she realized the rotten core wasn't just in the car, it ran through Elite Motors itself. Corrupt employees playing dangerous games, risking lives for quick cash. The quiet murmurs swelled into a low roar. Some staff stared with newfound respect, others with veiled anger. Maya's chest tightened, but she pushed harder, not just for the roar of a fixed engine, but for justice in a place riddled with disrespect and betrayal. Just when the first sparks of victory lit her eyes, another shadow slid across the polished floor. A deeper conspiracy surfaced, one that threatened to pull her under with it. The dealer's pristine image cracked, secrets bleeding out like oil on pavement. Maya's fingers hovered over the tools, heart hammering like a warning drum. The countdown clock on the wall ticked mercilessly, each second a hammer blow. Could she survive the storm? Could she shake the very foundation of this toxic empire? Or was she destined to be just another casualty? Swallowed whole by lies and scorns, her gaze locked on the flickering clock, etched with hope and dread. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss out on any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Maya's fingers hovered over the tools, heart hammering like a warning drum. She was in the zone, feeling the engine's pulse beneath her hands. A sudden crash made her jump. The door slammed open, sending the receptionist's phone clattering to the floor. "It's a setup," a breathless voice shouted. It was Jake, the young mechanic who had been watching Maya with bemused eyes. He rushed in, panic etched across his face. "Towel. They're coming for you." "Who?" Maya demanded, instinctively putting her body between the Ferrari and the door. A lioness guarding her cub. "The owners, the higher-ups. They knew you were sniffing around. They lied to us all, Maya. The company is built on fraud, cars with fake parts, money laundering. I thought I was just cleaning up after customers, but it's worse than I imagined. Maya froze, mind racing. Jake, what are you saying? Do you have proof? I've seen the books, transactions that don't match up. The secret garage under the old warehouse down the street. His voice dropped to a frantic whisper. If they know you're here, it's game over. The weight of his words pressed down on her chest like an anvil. She glanced back at the Ferrari, the challenge and the betrayal twisted in her mind. What kind of monster had she dared to take on? Suddenly, footsteps echoed down the hallway. More than one set. The atmosphere changed, thick with threats. A knot formed in her stomach, the sickening realization that she had stumbled into a den of vipers. Maya said nothing, but her eyes met Jake's, the silent agreement of surviving this together. The footsteps stopped at the door, and 3 suited men filled the entrance, blocking the light. Their expressions were hard, smiles like knives. Thomas stepped forward, slick as oil, lips curling with malice. Oh, what do we have here? Little Maya thinks she can expose us? He gestured, and 2 of his goons pushed directly into the garage, eyes scanning for Maya and Jake. Didn't they see she was no longer alone? I wouldn't run if I were you, Thomas sneered. No one will hear you scream in this place. Maya's hands trembled as she picked up a wrench, her heart racing like the engines she loved. I'm not afraid of you, or your lies. With a gesture, she motioned for Jake to stay back. He shook his head frantically. Maya, you need to get out before it's too late. You don't know what they're really capable of. And then it happened. A deafening siren began to wail, echoing through the showroom like a banshee. The lights flickered ominously, casting shadows that danced wildly on the walls. Maya felt the air go cold, a chill creeping in that had nothing to do with fear. Not now, Thomas roared, rage spilling over. Shut it off. In that moment of chaos, Maya spotted something out of the corner of her eye. Sarah, the receptionist, standing frozen, phone still in her hand. But something was different. The phone wasn't just any phone. It was a recording device. Time slowed. Maya could see the truth in Sarah's vacant stare. She wasn't just a bystander. She had been connected to the whole scheme, feeding information back to Thomas and his men. They had played their parts perfectly. How deep did this rabbit hole go? Maya's stomach sank deeper as the siren continued screaming. The twinkling lights spiraled around her like an omen. Her entire world teetered on a knife's edge, and one misstep could send her tumbling into the abyss. Maya, Jake warned, we have to run now. But before she could answer, Thomas lunged forward, knocking the wrench from her hand. It clattered to the floor, echoing like a gunshot. As chaos erupted around her, one thought consumed Maya. Who could she trust? And then, amidst the noise and confusion, she felt the cold spiral of betrayal tighten around her heart. This was just the beginning. The battle lines were drawn, but would she emerge as the warrior or just another casualty of this treacherous game? Maya's heart raced as Thomas lunged for her wrench, the clang of metal hitting marble, slicing through the chaos. She fought to regain control, her instincts kicking in. But then chaos shifted. The air thickened, and suddenly the lights flickered, plunging them into darkness for a terrifying moment. Get out, Jake shouted, yanking Maya's arm. But it was too late. The moment the fluorescent glow returned, everyone froze. An eerie silence blanketed the room, interrupted only by the frantic sirens still wailing. And then the unthinkable happened. From the rear entrance burst an armed man, a ski mask pulled low, wielding a gun that glinted ominously under. Gasps erupted. A chorus of fear. On the ground, now, he shouted, voice muffled, yet sharp as glass. Time warped into slow motion. Maya felt the world tilt. She had walked into a den of vipers, but now it was a war zone. Thomas swiveled, his bravado evaporating. "What is this?" he barked, revealing a flicker of true terror. The masked figure surveyed the room, eyes darting from person to person, finally landing on Maya. "You, fix the Ferrari," he commanded, pointing his gun directly at her. "What?" Maya stammered, bewildered. A gun trained on her felt surreal. I'm not your mechanic. Don't play games. I know you're the one who found the leaks. You've uncovered things you shouldn't have. Fix the car or everyone pays." Panic surged, squeezing Maya's chest. She knew the stakes were high, but this was madness. She shot a glance at Jake, whose eyes widened in horror. The room was spiraling into chaos. Thomas backing away slowly, Sarah clutching her phone like a lifeline. And other employees either fleeing or standing frozen in disbelief. "Why do you care about the car?" Maya yelled, hoping to buy time. "What's it to you?" But before she could breathe, a second figure crashed through the door. This time, it was a woman, staring straight at Maya with chilling familiarity. Nia, Maya's long-lost cousin. "Maya!" she cried, her voice piercing through the sound of panic. "It's part of the plan!" The revelation hit like a freight train. Nia? Why was she here? What plan? Confusion knotted Maya's thoughts as her past collided with her present. "Nia, what's going on? Why are you with them?" "I didn't have a choice." Nia's shaky voice was barely audible above the sirens. "They needed someone close to you, to draw you in. Thomas, he's involved. They've got connections deep, Maya. This is bigger than just the Ferrari." Maya's mouth went dry. Thomas? Her cousin? Betrayal shot through her chest like a blade. All this time, the whispers had been right. There was corruption, but now her own family was tangled in it. Voices blurred, adrenaline surged, and the gunman's grip tightened, impatience growing in his eyes. "Enough chatter. Now, fix it," he commanded, moving closer. Fear mixed with rage burned in Maya's gut. She couldn't back down. Not now, not ever. One wrong move and everyone would pay, not just her. "I'll fix it," she said, forcing her trembling hands to stay steady. "But I need tools." "Go," Nia cried, voice shaking. "It's the only chance." With a nod from Jake, they moved. But as Maya bent to grab her tools, she caught a switch in the corner of her eye. Thomas stood still, frozen in fear. Only it was different now. The fear was real. Maya turned, hardened steel in her gaze. She had no idea what would happen next. In that split second, a forgotten thought stabbed at her. What if she was the trap? What if the deeper game was being played, and she was the pawn in an endless chess match of betrayal? The room crackled with tension, and the pieces were falling dangerously out of place. With every heartbeat, it felt like everything she thought she knew was crumbling around her. And still, she had to push forward, because if she didn't take control now, they could all end up as roadkill in a high-stakes game of deceit. With Thomas's face twisted in fear, and Nia's desperate eyes locked onto her, Maya knew one thing for certain. It was time to ignite the storm. Maya's heart pounded like a derby in her chest, the tension in the air, thick enough to slice with a knife. She leaned down, grabbing her tools, while keeping her eye on the gunman. "Just fix the Ferrari," he shouted again, impatience Lynn. In that pressurized moment, her mind raced through options. How had everything spiraled so quickly? She couldn't let them control her any longer. With determination igniting her nerves, she took a step toward the Ferrari, ready to grab what she needed to take charge. "Wait!" Nia's voice sliced through the chaos, desperate. "Maya, listen to me." The gunman swung towards her, eyes narrowing. "You don't get to talk. This is a one-woman job." But Maya steeled herself. The need to protect her cousin pushing her forward. "Nia, what did you mean it's part of the plan?" Her voice cut through the sirens. What does that even mean? Nia hesitated, her face awash with fear and regret. I can't explain now. Just trust me. Trust? The word tangled like a storm in Maya's mind. Her fingers wrapped around a wrench tighter, ready to use it as a shield or a weapon. The gunman moved closer, his gun still trained on her. Fix it or everyone pays, he ordered once again, urgency dripping from his tone. With the cold sweat running down her spine, Maya's other senses kicked in. She inhaled deeply, the smell of metal and oil, heavy in the air. She glanced around at the others, Jake's eyes wide with horror, Sarah's expression blank, yet uncertain. None were willing to help, all frozen in their spots. But just then, from the corner of her eye, Maya caught a flicker on the floor, a movement she hadn't registered before. A small device, barely noticeable, illuminating with a low, ominous glow. Her heart dropped. "Wait!" she shouted, pointing. "What's that?" Everyone turned. The gunman's face twisted with annoyance. But before he could react, the device erupted with a flash, blinding lights engulfing the room. "Maya!" Jake screamed, shielding his eyes. "What the hell?" Thomas spat, scrambling back. In the chaos, Maya's instincts kicked in. She had one shot. "Nia, go!" she shouted, before her thoughts finished processing the strangeness of the moment. The blinding light faded just as quickly, and Maya found herself gasping, her eyes adjusting to the flickering shadows cast by a sudden terrifying presence. Then, the truth just spilled out, crashing over her with unyielding weight. Emerging from the smoke and chaos was another figure, this time, a familiar face twisted in a grimace of amusement. It was her father, Daniel Johnson, one-time famed mechanic turned shadowy dealer. Someone Maya thought she had left behind long ago. "Maya, baby girl," he drawled, a sardonic smile creeping across his lips. "You shouldn't be playing in the big leagues." Staggered, Maya felt her legs almost buckle. "Dad?" Her voice shook. "What are you doing here?" "Can't you tell?" He laughed, that sinister laugh she had heard all too well during her childhood. "I'm here to collect." His gaze slid across the room, calculating, as if assessing who mattered and who didn't. Maya's world tilted on its axis. Everything she thought she knew shifted beneath her. Everything she thought they were fighting against, her ideals, her motivations, they now felt like sand slipping through her fingers. "You're part of this? You know about the fake parts, the corruption?" His smile faded, replaced by that look of someone cornered. "I can explain, sweetheart. But let's not get tangled in family affairs when we have a little mess to clean up, shall we?" The gunman, seeming to sense the shift in power, lowered his weapon slightly, confusion creeping in as he deemed the situation unstable. Maya felt rage ignite, fueling her determination. "You don't get to use me as leverage," she shot back, her voice steady. "You were the last person I expected to betray me." But her father stepped forward, potent with authority. "You think you can take on this empire alone? You're still my daughter, and you don't have to be the hero. Join me, and we'll alter everything." "Never," she spat, bile rising in her throat. But as the tension descended like a storm cloud, uncertainty washed over the room. What alliances now existed? Was her father's presence a chance for salvation, or just another layer of betrayal? The air crackled with anticipation, everyone holding their breath, as the lines blurred between friends and foes. In that suffocating moment, more questions flooded her mind. Would she fight against not just Thomas and his crew, but now her own blood? And would Nia truly be by her side? Or had she fallen just as deep into this quagmire? With a sea of betrayal washing over her, Maya realized one thing. This was only the beginning. The stakes had never been higher, and the faces she thought she could trust now seemed far away. In this game of power, She knew she was far from safe. Maya's heart raced as she faced her father, the lines of loyalty and betrayal intertwining like the tangled wires of the Ferrari engine. You can't be serious. After everything, you're just going to pretend you aren't a part of this mess? She stepped back, desperately trying to find solid ground in the shifting sands. Think about it. No, you've corrupted everything I stand for. Anger flared inside her. Everywhere she turned, she felt like the walls were closing in. And then, everything changed. The screech of tires echoed from outside, followed by the unmistakable sound of sirens growing louder. Police sirens. "What the hell is that?" Thomas shouted, shooting a frantic look towards the door. He grabbed Nia, pulling her close like a shield. Panic spread across the room like wildfire. The gunman tensed, his grip on the weapon tightening. "No one's leaving this place," he growled, eyes darting between the throng of people, panic palpable. But Maya didn't have time to consider the threats. She spotted a flicker of movement at the rear entrance. A squad of police officers burst through the door, all business, dressed in dark uniforms, badges shining like stars in the chaos. "Hands in the air! Everyone! Now!" they shouted, their authority slicing through the din. The sudden shift took Maya by surprise. She felt the thrill of hope sparking in her chest, lifting the weight of despair for a fleeting moment. Could this be her chance? Yet the gunman fumbled, eyes wide, caught between fight and flight. "You won't take me," he shouted, turning the gun toward the officers, finger poised on the trigger. "Maya, run!" Jake yelled, cutting through the noise, snapping her back to reality. But before she could move, Daniel stepped forward. "Wait!" His voice boomed, driving through the confusion. "This is a misunderstanding. We can work this out." "Work what out?" a tall officer barked, advancing with determination. "You're the one creating havoc here." No one was safe now. The feeling of loyalty to her father tangled, bursting into disbelief. Just then, a blinding flash erupted. Every face twisted towards the sound. A flashbang. It was pure chaos. The air burst with deafening shouts, the world dissolving into a maelstrom of confusion. In the blur, Maya caught sight of Nia, her cousin. A flicker of recognition lit her eyes, but then they suddenly widened in horror. "Maya, look out!" The gunman, scrambling for an exit, knocked over a container filled with engine oil. The slippery liquid sprayed across the floor, creating a treacherous barrier. In that instant, Maya's foot slipped, a sickening rush of adrenaline and fear consuming her. She tumbled sideways, crashing sideways onto the floor, her body colliding with something cold and hard. Time stretched out as she landed against a person. Thomas. The sheer shock of it nearly knocked the breath from her lungs. And then, a sharp crack echoed in the air. The gun discharged, the sound ripping through her like a gash. In slow motion, she saw Daniel, standing uncharacteristically still, eyes wide as his expression morphed into rage. The bullet had missed her, but it had struck true somewhere else. Maya turned her head, horror dawning as she saw Daniel staggering backward, clutching his chest. "Dad!" she screamed. She pushed herself up, heart racing as she rushed to him. But something strange flickered in his eyes, glazed over. His hand slid down, revealing a flash of metal, a knife buried deep, his own betrayal cutting deeper than any bullet could. You don't understand," he gasped, words laced with regret and desperation. Maya's chest tightened as she fell to her knees beside him. All her anger dissolved into a torrent of confusion. "What have you done?" The world spun. Weight crashing down around her as life drained from his face, and her mind raced back, piecing together the fragments of betrayal that had led to this very moment. In the distance, the chaos continued, officers storming in, sirens blaring, confusion reigning supreme. Yet here she was, at the heart of it all, the pieces of her world shattering. The lines of trust had blurred, people around her shifting like shadows. But now she faced the real monster. "Why?" she whispered, haunted by the echoes of every lie he had done. It was about control. Shock wrapped around her heart like a vice. Maya gasped as clarity blinded her. The truth spiraled open, exposing everything she thought she understood. The storm in her chest threatened to tear her apart. And just like that, everything she believed was turned inside out. The clock ticked ominously, and the fight was just beginning. Who could she trust now? Questions swirled in her mind as Daniel's breathing slowed, everything collapsing into uncertainty. This wasn't just a fight for the Ferrari anymore. It was a fight for her soul. Would she rise from the ashes of her shattered world, or would she too be consumed by the very empire they had built? The storm had only just begun. Maya's world spun as she knelt beside her father, holding on to a painful reality that twisted with every passing second. Daniel's breaths came in shallow gasps, his voice barely escaping. "Maya, it was always about power, not just for me, but for us." The intensity in his eyes flickered, a mix of pain and desperation. "What are you talking about?" She gripped his shirt, panic swelling in her chest. The chaos continued to whirl around them, but this moment felt frozen in time, suspended between life and death. Before he could answer, a loud crash erupted from the back room, followed by hurried footsteps and a voice that shook her to the core. "Can someone help him?" Her heart raced. No, it couldn't be. But there he was, Derek, her childhood friend, dressed in a dark shirt, panting heavily, their eyes locked, a shared history flooding back like stagnant water. "Maya, we have to get out of here." "Derek, what are you doing here?" It slipped from her mouth, alarmed and confused. "I've always been here," he replied, urgency underlying his words. "It wasn't just your father. I'm in deep, Maya. They pulled me in years ago, with promises I thought were real. But it's all a trap." Time slowed, and silence punctuated the unraveling madness. Maya's mind spun, just as the revelation began to sink in. "What do you mean, a trap?" Just then, without warning, Thomas took a step forward, the fear melting away to cold fury. "You thought you could just stroll back in here, Derek? This is my operation now." Derek faced Thomas, defiance flashing in his eyes. "That's where you're wrong. I didn't come here to betray anyone, least of all Maya. We both want to bring you down." Maya staggered back, absorbing the betrayal, the tangled web of lies woven tighter around her. "But I trusted you." Derek's shoulders dropped slightly, guilt washing over him. "I know, but it's more complicated than that. I'm not who you think I am anymore." The crack of realization hit harder than anything. "You were in on this?" she whispered, the words ringing like a death knell in her ears. The sirens outside wailed louder, engulfing the room with an even heavier sense of impending doom. Derek opened his mouth to explain, but before he could, the gunman turned, eyes glinting with malice. "Enough of this. You all want to play hero? There's a way out." He pointed the gun at the door, and Maya's heart sank into her stomach. "Wait," she cried, urgency lacing her voice. "Let's just all breathe. We can—" But before she could finish, Derek lunged forward, grabbing the gunman's arm. "Maya, run!" he shouted. The two struggled, their bodies colliding, and then a shot rang through the air. Maya staggered, her whole world shattering around her. The echo of the gun sounded like thunder, each pulse of her heart matching the chaos. She gasped as the gunman fell, the weapon slipping from his hand. But the moment froze, the realization crashing over her. Derek hadn't just fought for a chance at survival. He'd shot the gunman, but there was something deeper in his eyes. And then she noticed it. Derek reached for his own side, collapsing onto the floor beside the gunman. Maya's heart plummeted as she saw the dark crimson spreading through his shirt. "Derek!" she screamed, rushing to his side, placing her hand over the wound, trying to stanch the bleeding. He coughed, struggling to breathe. "It was the only way, Maya. I couldn't let you go through this alone." "No, you can't leave me like this." She felt the heat of tears stinging her eyes, the horror of it all dawning on her. "I'm not leaving, not really." His voice faded, pain etched on his face. "Find out what's really going on. You're the only one who can. Save us." As darkness clouded his eyes, the room spun back into chaos. Her father's voice echoed behind her, a plea tangled in anger, but she couldn't focus. She saw the police flooding in, the chaos rippling. Trust was hollow now. The trail ran deep. With everything lost, the truth slammed into her mind. She'd been a pawn all along, and now she was left to navigate the ruins. The walls began to close in, nightmarish whispers creeping in. Would she unravel the conspiracy, or drown in the treachery of those she once loved? Derek's face faded from view, leaving her alone in the storm, surrounded by shattered trust. Maya took a deep breath, heart pounding. "It's time to figure out who I really can trust," she murmured to herself as chaos erupted around her. The fight was far from over. Maya's heart pounded as she knelt beside Derek, her hands pressing against the wound, desperately trying to stem the tide of crimson that seeped between her fingers. The world spun in chaos around them, sirens wailing, officers storming, voices shouting, but all she could focus on was the warmth leaving Derek's body. "Hold on! Stay with me!" Panic clumped. He managed a weak smile. "Maya, His breath hitched and she could feel him slipping away. "You have to trust me. Keep fighting." The chaos swelled around her. Officers were shouting orders. Thomas was back against the wall, eyes wild with fury. Maya looked up, tears blurring her vision as she screamed, "Somebody help!" But in that moment of desperation, thick with stakes and uncertainty, something else happened. The lights above flickered, dimmed, then burst, plunging the room into darkness. Gasps echoed, a collective breath held tight as the sirens became muffled in the sudden absence of light. "No, what's happening?" Maya's voice broke through, panic rippling through her. She could barely see Derek's face now, only the outline of his features bathed in shadows, his life fading like the light around them. Through the inky dark, a faint hum began to rise, soft at first, then building into a low, unsettling growl. It felt like the ground was beginning to shake beneath her, a tremor that seized the room. And then, the back wall exploded with a deafening crash, sending bricks flying. Screams roared through the air as people dove for cover. Maya barely registered the figure that emerged from the smoke, silhouetted against the chaos. It was a woman, tall, powerful, and wearing an armor of darkness. "Maya!" her voice rang out, cutting through the confusion. The air shifted. Maya squinted, a flicker of recognition igniting in her chest. "Carmen?" But before Maya could react further, the woman raised her hand, and bright light flooded the room, illuminating everything in a stark, harsh glare. The scene crystallized. Derek, pale and bleeding. Thomas, wide-eyed, frozen in a tableau of shock. And a group of armed mercenaries now surrounding them. "I told you I'd come back for you, didn't?" Carmen said, her fierce eyes locking onto Maya's, a smirk playing at the corners of her mouth. "What are you doing here?" Maya spat, confusion warring with the rush of relief. "You shouldn't have come. It's dangerous." "I needed you to see the truth." Carmen stepped forward. "Your father isn't the real enemy. He's just a pawn in a larger game. They're all in it. Thomas, that gunman, they're part of an organization much bigger than you can imagine." Maya's mind spun. What? What do you mean? If you want to survive this, you need to listen, Carmen said, urgency bleeding into her voice. Your father's empire has gone rogue. You're the key to stopping it. Not Derek, not anyone else, just you. Disbelief churned in her stomach. What are you talking about? I don't even know what's real anymore. But Carmen's next words solidified Maya's fears. Derek's been working for them too. He was supposed to keep tabs on you. The betrayal you felt? It was his mission, and he failed. Nothing could have prepared her for those words. Anger, betrayal, and pain twisted in sharp knots inside her. She gaped at Derek, horror pooling in her eyes. You were in on this? Breath caught in his throat as he looked back at her, his expression a mix of regret and determination. Maya, no time. You have to get out. Carmen pushed through the chaos, gathering Maya into her arms. We have to go, now! But a sudden shot rang out. The room recoiled, an echo of despair. The noise shifted everything. Maya turned, helplessly still on the ground, as the world tumbled into chaos once more. Derek gasped, grabbing his side. I wanted to protect you. Derek, Maya cried, but the weight of Carmen's words hung heavy. The truth was unraveling, and in that moment, a damning clarity washed over her. Maybe it wasn't only her father's empire that was out to get her. Maybe everyone had their own motives, twisted and dark. Maya's heart raced, realizing the firestorm she was standing in. Between allies and enemies, every choice she made would lead to consequences deeper than she ever thought possible. A line had blurred completely, and as the sirens drew nearer, one undeniable thought coursed through her. This was just the beginning of something far worse. What if everything she thought she knew was part of a larger scheme? Who could she trust? And with that question in her mind, darkness loomed, not just from the shadows around her, but from every direction, threatening to engulf her whole. Maya's heart raced as she knelt beside Derek, her hands pressing against the wound, desperately trying to stem. Stay with me. Panic clawed at her chest. He managed a weak smile. Maya, His breath hitched and she could feel him slipping away. You have to trust me. Keep fighting. The chaos swelled around her. Officers were shouting orders. Thomas was back against the wall, eyes wild with fury. Maya looked up, tears blurring her vision as she screamed, "Somebody help!" But in that moment of desperation, thick with stakes and uncertainty, something else happened. The lights above flickered, dimmed, then burst, plunging the room into darkness. Gasps echoed. A collective breath held tight as the sirens became muffled in the sudden absence of light. No, what's happening? Maya's voice broke through, panic rippling through her. She could barely see Derek's face now, only the outline of his features bathed in shadows, his life fading like the light around them. Through the inky dark, a faint hum began to rise, soft at first, then building into a low, unsettling growl. It felt like the ground was beginning to shake beneath her, a tremor that seized the room. And then, the back wall exploded with a deafening crash, sending bricks flying. Screams roared through the air as people dove for cover. Maya barely registered the figure that emerged from the smoke, silhouetted against the chaos. It was a woman, tall, powerful, and wearing an armor of darkness. Maya! Her voice rang out, cutting through the confusion. The air shifted. Maya squinted, a flicker of recognition igniting in her chest. Carmen? But before Maya could react further, the woman raised her hand, and bright light flooded the room, illuminating everything in a stark, harsh glare. The scene crystallized. Derek, pale and bleeding. Thomas, wide-eyed, frozen in a tableau of shock, and a group of armed mercenaries now surrounding them. I told you I'd come back for you, didn't I? Carmen said, her fierce eyes locking onto Maya's, a smirk playing at the corners of her mouth. "What are you doing here?" Maya spat, confusion warring with the rush of relief. "You shouldn't have come. It's dangerous." "I needed you to see the truth." Carmen stepped forward. "Your father isn't the real enemy. He's just a pawn in a larger game. They're all in it. Thomas, that gunman, then part of an organization much bigger than you can imagine." Maya's mind spun. "What? What do you mean?" "If you want to survive this, you need to listen," Carmen said, urgency bleeding into her voice. "Your father's empire has gone rogue. You're the key to stopping it. Not Derek, not anyone else, just you." Disbelief churned in her stomach. "What are you talking about? I don't even know what's real anymore." But Carmen's next words solidified Maya's fears. "Derek's been working for them too. He was supposed to keep tabs on you. The betrayal you felt, it was his mission. And he failed." Nothing could have prepared her for those words. Anger, betrayal, and pain twisted in sharp knots inside her. She gaped at Derek, horror pooling in her eyes. You were in on this?" Breath caught in his throat as he looked back at her, his expression a mix of regret and determination. "Maya, no time. You have to get out." Carmen pushed through the chaos, gathering Maya into her arms. "We have to go, now!" But a sudden shot rang out. The room recoiled, an echo of despair. The noise shifted everything. Maya turned, helplessly still on the ground, as the world tumbled into chaos once more. Derek gasped, grabbing his side. I wanted to protect you." "Derek!" Maya cried, but the weight of Carmen's words hung heavy. The truth was unraveling, and in that moment, a damning clarity washed over her. Maybe it wasn't only her father's empire that was out to get her. Maybe everyone had their own motives, twisted and dark. Maya's heart raced, realizing the firestorm she was standing in. Between allies and enemies, every choice she made would lead to consequences deeper than she ever thought possible. The line had blurred completely, and as the sirens drew nearer, one undeniable thought coursed through her mind. This was just the beginning of something far worse. Then, out of nowhere, a deafening explosion rocked the entire building, a deafening roar that shook every wall, rattling her very core. Smoke poured in, engulfing everything in a thick, choking fog. As it enveloped her, it was a man, dressed in black, mask covering his face. He raised a hand high, revealing a shimmering device that pulsed ominously. "Time's up," he shouted, and before anyone could react, he pressed a button. Seconds stretched painfully. A deafening blast thundered through the air, sending shockwaves that knocked everyone to the ground. Maya shielded her eyes as debris rained down. Chaos exploded in every direction. The entire building began to tremble, walls cracking, lights exploding around them. And then, in the storm of destruction, something even worse happened. Maya glimpsed a flash of red. A gentle hum filled her ears, but it felt wrong, disjointed, like a distant siren call. She turned, eyes wide, only to watch in horror as the masked man crumbled to the floor, revealing a familiar face beneath the mask. Her own cousin, Nia. "Nia?" she gasped, confusion racking her mind. Everything cracked. As Nia lay there, struggling to speak, the chaos faded, revealing something far darker. "I had to," she coughed, struggling to catch her breath. Shock twisted through Maya. What does this mean? Who can she trust? Everything she thought she knew shattered into fragments, swirling in a storm of betrayal and truth. In that fragile moment of realization, as dust settled, the full weight of her cousin's actions hit her like a freight train. And Maya stumbled back, the world spinning around her, heart racing, breath uneven. Could she unravel this web of lies and find a way through all of this? A deafening silence fell, and everything shifted. Who were the real enemies now? Beneath layers of deception, what truths were still hidden? In the midst of disaster, one question screamed louder than the rest. Was she ready to face the real fight? Maya's heart felt like it was pounding in her throat as she stared at Nia, trying to grapple with what had just happened. The chaos still surrounded them, smoke curling through the air, sirens blaring outside, the shouts of officers echoing off the walls. Everything felt like a terrible nightmare, 1 second from being real, and yet here it was, displaying itself right before her eyes. "Nia, you need to get up. We have to get out of here," Maya shouted, urgency flooding her voice. But Nia lay still, struggling for breath, her face pale and streaked with dirt and oil. "Carmen!" Maya yelled over her shoulder, trying to catch the mercenary's attention. But Carmen was busy assessing the surroundings, eyes darting from one corner of the room to another, her posture radiating danger. Thomas had retreated, and even Derek seemed to be fading, an agonizing expression frozen on his face. "Is he breathing?" Maya managed to choke out, eyes darting back to Derek. His breaths were shallow. "Stay with me, Derek, please!" she cried, fear knotting tightly in her chest. He glanced at her, that flicker of recognition illuminating his features one last time. "Maya, get out, now!" His voice cracked, and she could see the light slowly dimming behind his eyes. Desperation clutched her heart. Before she could respond, a sudden blast rattled her body, sending shock waves through the room. She looked up to see the masked man that Nia had pulled down. But he wasn't just lying there. He launched himself from the ground, his black attire blending into the darkness, fueled by an unseen power. "Maya!" he shouted, lunging toward her. "You can't let this happen." Every instinct told her to run, but she froze, caught in the maelstrom of confusion and fear. "What do you mean?" she yelled, holding her ground. As he charged forward, a jagged line of light cut through the shadows. Gunfire. An officer had taken aim, and just like that, the masked man staggered back. "No!" Maya shouted, panic flooding her senses as he fell, his mask sliding off, revealing a terrified face she never expected to see. It was her father's right-hand man, a figure she had always assumed was loyal. "Gabe?" The man's face twisted in pain as he collapsed, blood oozing from his shoulder, where he had been hit. "No time. Maya, everything. It wasn't what you thought. You're in danger." Suddenly, Carmen moved toward him, understanding dawning in her dark gaze. "What do you know?" "Elite Motors isn't just a car dealership," he gasped, struggling to keep his voice steady. "It's a front for something much darker. They don't just deal in cars. They deal in human lives, Maya. Their reach is far beyond anything you can imagine." The realization slammed into her like a punch. "What do you mean?" she stammered, horror unfolding in waves. "What are you saying?" Just then, another explosion shook the walls around them, bringing debris crashing down. Maya's breath hitched in her throat as chaos erupted anew. "Get her out of here," Gabe yelled, his gaze frantic. The urgency was palpable, and then it happened. An eerie silence fell, hanging thick like a shroud over the chaos. The world seemed to shift, and before Maya could process, she witnessed a figure emerging from the smoke. A woman dressed in a long coat. The way she moved struck fear into Maya's heart, her eyes glinting dangerously. The woman raised a hand, and the tension escalated. "It's time for the truth to come out," she said, voice chilling. Maya couldn't breathe. Dread filled the space. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice shaky, yet defiant. She felt heat at her back, fear at the edges of her vision. "Your fate is intertwined, Maya," the woman replied, stepping into the light, revealing a familiar face from her past, someone long thought lost. It was her mother, Adrian, who had vanished when Maya was just a child. "Mom? No, this can't be real." The weight of those words crashed down on her, sending shockwaves through the air. The pieces snapped into place, the darkness swirling with memories. The fear, the betrayals, the chaos. It had all been leading to this defining moment. "Come with me, Maya," Adrian urged, voice calm but insistent. "You have to understand, everything you thought you knew is a lie." Maya's world splintered. Her heart raced. Questions flew in every direction, each one sharper than the last. Who was she supposed to trust? How many more secrets lay buried? And as the weight of her mother's presence hit her, one truth loomed larger than the rest. The storm was just beginning, and the disaster had only hinted at its true scale. Everything would change now. Everything. As Maya stared at her mother, a whirlwind of emotions tangled inside her. "You're alive? How? Why?" Adrian stepped forward, urgency etched on her face. "There's no time. The truth weaves a dark web, one that I tried to shield you from all those years, but it's too late. The organization is targeting you now." "What organization?" Maya's voice trembled, balancing fear and confusion. Before Adrian could answer, sirens blared louder, rushing closer, cascading the building with tension. Gabe grunted in pain, still clutching his shoulder. "You have to get out. It's not just Thomas. They're coming for all of us." Thomas, still wide-eyed, was recovering, gathering courage as he backed against the wall. "You think this is over, Adrian? You think you can just walk back in?" Maya shot a piercing glance at him. "You're as corrupt as the rest. You've done nothing but lie." "Enough!" Adrian's voice cut through like a knife, firm and unwavering. "We don't have time to waste. We have to expose them. Everything." In that moment, the building quivered again. Dust and debris cascaded from the ceiling. Maya could feel the air thicken, pulse quickening, the weight of fate pressing down on her shoulders. "Derek, we need to help him," she pleaded, glancing back at her childhood friend. "No," Gabe shouted, struggling to sit up. "He's done. You can't save him now." But she wouldn't give up. She turned back to Derek, heart racing, every breath aching in her chest. "Stay with me, Derek. I promise we're getting you out of here." Abruptly, the building roared again. The floor beneath them rattled violently. In a surreal moment, the ghostly figure of her mother crossed the room, reaching out to grab Maya's arm. "We can't stay here. Follow me." Maya couldn't think. She nodded, nerves raging, yet adrenaline fueled her steps. The walls rattled as panic surged. Maya, Adrian, and Gabe rushed to the door, pushing through the opacity of smoke. Outside, a team of police officers gathered, their faces a canvas of confusion and urgency. "Get them out, now," someone shouted, the urgency in their voice clear. "Maya, we're leaving." Adrian pulled her daughter forward, urgency bleeding into every word. "Maya!" Derek's voice cut through, weak and trembling. Time seemed to slow. Maya glanced back, guilt flooding her heart. "I can't just leave him." But Adrian's strong grip held her firm. "No, we have to go. They're going to blow this place." Maya's determination wavered, but the urgency in her mother's eyes, so familiar and powerful, made her take a step back. "You don't have to go back for him. Not now." As they fled outside, the emergency lights swirling, sirens blaring, Maya caught a glimpse back at the building, her world crumbling behind her. With the chaos escalating, they ran to a nearby alley. Heart racing, gasping for breath, Maya could finally feel the weight release, but dread still gnawed at her insides. What now? "I'll explain everything," Adrian promised, but concern crossed her features. Just then, they turned a corner and froze. A luxury car awaited them, its engine purring, driver waiting patiently. "Get in." The driver instructed, eyes darting around the street in alarm. Terry? Maya realized, recognizing the ally to her family. Only option we have. Get in, he pressed again, urgency in his voice. As they slid into the car, Adrian turned to Maya, the tension easing slightly. This isn't the end. It's just the beginning, Maya. We fight together now. A moment of hope flickered amidst the chaos. The car sped away, leaving the ruins of her old life behind. But as they drove, Maya's heart still thundered. A sense of resolve settled over her. They would face the storm ahead. And then the thought struck her. What lay ahead mattered more than ever. Just as the horizon opened up before them, Maya turned to her mother. Together, we'll uncover the truth. But deep inside, the unanswered questions clawed at her. What secrets awaited? And who were really her friends? As the car sped away into uncertainty, there was one thing she knew for sure. This was just the beginning. And now, here's the moment of truth, folks. You must subscribe immediately to the channel so as not to miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep our community growing. Don't wait one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this ending. They'll thank you for it. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Your support makes a world of difference. Only true fans know how to stand up for the channel. Let